My name's Ewan. I specialise in Cumbrian holiday lets and have over 40 hours a week, as well as the experience of more than 30 properties to dedicate to an investor who wants to make a world-class portfolio and has more than £100,000. Do you know anybody like this?
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to be showing you how to be taking profits tax efficiently and how to just absolutely maximize your tax efficiency. Now, that's to do with a lot of things: inheritance tax, capital gains tax, and it can also be to do with just income tax as well. So, income tax efficient portfolio, a capital gains tax efficient portfolio, and an inheritance tax efficient portfolio. First of all, little spoiler: capital gains tax efficient. I will tell you right now how to do that. Never, ever, 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 ever sell a property, ever. There is only one situation in which you might sell one, and that is if you haven't been buying to the rules already. You come across the Insight Education Group, for example, and you learn some rules and you think, oh, I've got a lot of dross compared to this. You might well decide, or they might well advise, that you sell some of those just to free up capital and start again. On the other hand, though, once you're buying to these rules, you never sell, ever. You take these things to the grave. Let's get started because it is win, win, win. First of all, what do you need to look at? The cash flow. So the example here is a £90,000 property with a £67,500 mortgage on interest only at 4.5% a year. So first of all, you take a 67,500 mortgage because that means that you have paid a 25% deposit. When you pay a 25% deposit, you can only pay the interest. You don't have to actually repay the price of the property, and there's a reason for that, okay? We'll be getting onto that in just a second. The basic reason for that is you never ever want to pay them off either. You never want to sell them. You never want to pay them off at all right? So let's have a look. The rent per month on this property is £650. The mortgage is going to have to come out of that. You're paying the mortgage on this place, and that's going to be £253. The maintenance is going to be £80. Building insurance is £20, and a letting agent is going to cost you perhaps £78. Your net income on this property is going to be an extra £219 per month in your pocket, which is not too bad at all, is it? So very quickly, before we start talking about why you never pay these things off, a lot of people do have in their future, or they might say to themselves that when they're investing in properties, you know what, I really want to pay that mortgage off, because they see that number there, that £253 coming out every month, and they say, I want to keep that. And in addition to that, I think a lot of people are raised with a saver's mindset. In the UK, I'd say this is quite prevalent amongst people like myself who might have had, middle class or upper middle class parents, and they will have raised you well. Honestly, they will have. They won't have raised you with an investor mindset, which is what you need to nurture. They probably will have raised you with a saver's mindset, though, which has put you in the position now where you can actually start buying properties. So thank them for that. At least they didn't, raise you with a spender's mindset where you are sat here and you actually don't have any money at all, you're overdrawn, you're in debt, okay? These things will often be a result of your nurture. So don't get mad at them. However, I'm going to be showing you some better ways to make money, and it's going to include not paying off your mortgage, which you probably have been told is a good idea, because all debt is bad debt, of course. All debt is bad debt. Who wants to have debt? I do. I'll tell you who else wants to have debt. Richard Branson. Richard Branson, the founder of Virgin, has specifically written down in his goals, and he is quoted as saying this, that when he dies, he wants to have £1 billion in debt. And you might think, well, what a crook. That's going to be £1 billion that the rest of us pay off. No. See, there's good debt and then there's bad debt. Good debt is when you are making money or someone else is paying off what you've just bought. And the classic example for that is property, okay? If you buy one of these and rent it out to somebody, they're going to be paying that mortgage, okay? That £253 coming out for the mortgage is coming out of the rent that you've gotten from your tenants. So if something is, for one thing, being paid off by other people, and two, making you money, that's good debt. That's an asset. If you have to get into debt that costs you £100 a month, but it makes you £200 in return, Why aren't you doing that? That's an extra £100 a month in income. Do not be allergic to debt, my friends. Be allergic to bad debt. Okay, be allergic to bad debt. Bad debt is going to be things that you have to pay for even when you're not using them. They don't make you any money. These are going to be well, you should be allergic to these things when you're trying to grow and trying to build. When you're much older and you want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, okay, you will reap what you sow. And when it comes to spending on a Ferrari, spending on a plane, that kind of thing, you are just going to have to write that off. You're not ever going to buy those things and call it an investment, really, are you? So keep that in mind. There is good debt, there is bad debt. You don't really want to get into bad debt, especially when you're in a growth phase, as you should be if you're watching this video. So going back to our gentleman who decides that he's headstrong, he just has to pay off his mortgage. Well, this is what he does. He pays off his mortgage, all right? Spends all that money paying off that £67,500 mortgage. So now his income has gone from £219 per calendar month to an extra 253 on top of that. So thinking, great. Well, if you're a 40% taxpayer, your reward for doing this and being good and paying off your debt is that now your tax bill has gone up by that much per year, £1,214. So actually, you're only really able to capture about 60% of what you were losing to the mortgage, because now it's gone in your income tax. So I will just point out that this is before Section 24. Now, Section 24 is not something that we have to deal with because we specialize in serviced accommodation and holiday lets. If you are familiar with Section 24 or Clause 24, some people call it, you will know that it's even worse because actually, if you're a 40% taxpayer, you're penalized even further because you actually have to pay your mortgage and you're not able to offset it. We'll be going on to that in a different video. It's just easier to make the numbers work on this one to review things before Section 24 came into action. So that person has not actually really been able to capture the full amount. They're now paying more in income tax because they paid off their mortgage. So here I'm going to introduce a concept called refinancing. Now, I have actually put refinancing in some other videos. You can watch the 4 profit levers here. Now, refinancing is essentially what you're going to be doing, first of all, is increasing your rents. All right, before you go and try and refinance, you need to make sure that you're increasing your rent every year. And it should be somewhere between about 3 and 5% year on year. Now, the reason for that is because of inflation. Now, don't be that landlord that just goes, oh yeah, by the way, this month you're actually going to be paying me 20 quid more. That's just bad. The universe will find a way of getting you back for that. People are also not going to move for the sake of 20 quid a month. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money to even just hire a van and move all that stuff out of the house. It takes quite a lot of, it's going to take days out of your work week. So that's money lost. At the end of the day, someone's probably not going to move for the sake of 20 quid because the money that they save over a year, they probably could have worked and earned double or triple that, just, going okay. Give them plenty of notice. Let them know before they're renting from you that you will be increasing it, and give them reminders. Don't harangue them about it, but give them reminders. Just let them know that it's not actually going to be a surprise. Put it in black and white. That's the best way. Put it in an email. So you're increasing your rent year on year. Okay. Now you'll want to do that because things like the maintenance is going to go up. Again, inflation. You're going to be paying more for someone to come out and fix something. You're going to be paying more for the contents insurance as well and things like that. Inflation just it hits everybody. So you will then go to the bank. Let's say that the price of the property has risen. You'll then go to the bank and you can say, I've been raising the rent regularly and I'd like to refinance. So what the bank will do is they will loan you 75% of the new value of the house, okay? Now, the property market in the UK goes up 7.9% a year, and that's obviously a compounding effect. So it goes up 7.9% a year on average. Later on, we'll have a look at some examples where we've been quite conservative and we have assumed 5% per year. What I'm going to do now is actually illustrate it with a 20% increase, but that doesn't mean that it's gone up 20% in a single year. It just means that it's gone up by 20%. That could happen over a few years. So you'll go to the bank at the end of your mortgage term. This is why you always going to want to go for those short 2-year fixed interest plans, and you refinance. They will then value the property. Let's say, for example, it's gone up 20% to £108,000. That's how much it's worth now. So £90,000 property, it's gone up 20%. Now you're looking at a property worth £108,000. The mortgage on that is going to be £81,000. You get that money back tax-free. You pay off that 67.5 thousand mortgage, all right? You keep the difference. So you've now got a property that is worth £108,000. You've got 18 grand more equity. You have been able to take out £13.5 thousand tax-free because your mortgage has gone from 67.5 to 81. And the bank is giving you that because you can show that you can pay it off because you've been increasing your rents. So why would you not do that? It's tax-free money. Your equity has gone up. You might as well take advantage of it. So your mortgage will go up, which is why you need to increase your debt as the property goes up in value, not pay it off. You do not pay it off. You go always to that 75%. So next, we're going to be looking at capital gains tax. Now, like I said, you never, ever, ever sell. However, if you were to, this is how you should do it. Again, keep yourself at that 75% debt. So if you've got a property on the left-hand side here that's worth £100,000 when you buy it, after 15 years of 5% growth, it becomes worth 200K. After 15 more years of 5% growth, it becomes worth 400K. So if you sell it when it's worth 400K, that's a 300K gain if you have paid that mortgage off fully. You then get capital gains taxed at 28%. That means that 84 grand is going to come to you as a bill. All right, 84 grand, a bill, because you were stupid enough to pay your mortgage off. Now, if you keep that mortgage at 75%, that property is worth 400K, right? This is the magic of it. This is why you don't pay it off. 400K property, 300K mortgage, you take the difference. So now if you sell it, you're only going to get that tax on the 100K difference. So I would much rather pay 28K than 84K. And in fact, that 84 grand number, I suppose it applies for both, but once you have paid fees for moving, or if it's not your own property that you live in, maybe you don't pay moving fees, but letting fees, agent fees, that sort of thing. You're missing out on income here because there aren't going to be people in the property when you sell it. You could well be at 100K bill because you paid your mortgage off. You do not want to be spending 100K on a bill. You want to be spending less, all right? Now, you can avoid this completely by just not selling, which we don't. Next, we're going to be talking about inheritance tax. So inheritance tax is an interesting thing here in the UK. First of all, if you are in a couple, then you get an inheritance tax-free allowance of up to 650 grand. If you are single and you die, then your children will basically be getting a 320K tax-free allowance. And actually, just very quickly as well, speaking of inheritance, this does kind of play back into capital gains tax. But again, you never sell because your capital gains tax will get written off if you die. But if you sold it the day before you died, then you do get a bill for that capital gains tax. So just do not sell, do not sell, do not sell. Like I said, the only reason you might is if you've got dross and then you start buying correctly and off they go. So let's just say, going back to those numbers, all right, 320K if you're single, 650K if you're a couple. Let's just say that your estate, your cars, your bits and bobs, any heirlooms or anything like that. Let's just say that they take up that tax-free allowance and the inheritance tax is all going to be going into this portfolio. We're taking an example of £1 million portfolio here, where this top person, option one, has paid off the entire mortgage because that's how they've been raised. You don't want to have debt. You don't want to be paying, interest. You don't want to be, having these things go out every month. That could be money in your pocket. They've got £1 million portfolio with no debt. That entire portfolio gets taxed at 40%. They will be paying 400 grand in capital gains tax and inheritance tax, excuse me. Now, just to twist the knife on this, okay, just to get the point across, usually someone who is in property, they might not have gotten their children up to speed on how to deal with property. They might not have a team managing it properly. So what will often happen is that this £1 million portfolio will go to people who want to get rid of it because they will just be like, well, I'd rather have the lump sum. I don't really know how to deal with it. And they will look for property investors like myself, my partner Sarah, our mentor Aaron, who will say to them, yeah, well, we will take that off your hands. We will be 100% committed to the sale. We can do it speedily. Just if you don't mind, we're going to bring you down a little bit on the price. We'll buy it all off you for 800k, 850k. This person is still going to be saying, you know what, brilliant. That's 450k that I wouldn't have had otherwise, because remember they've got to pay that 40% tax, and that's 400k that I wouldn't have 450k I wouldn't have had otherwise. Let's do it. So they will do that. This happens a lot, and it's not predatory. You are actually doing this person a favor because they don't want these properties. You're going to manage them better at the end of the day. But for the person who's now dead, they could have done so much better, and they really, really could have prepared themselves better. Because I'm going to take you on to option 2 now, because this person, the children in the same situation, they have £1 million portfolio, but they still have not paid off those mortgages. They're still at 75% mortgaged. Okay, they're in debt 750k against this £1 million portfolio. Again, that 750 comes off the 1 million. So that 40% tax is only on the difference. It's only on that 250, which means the inheritance tax is 4 times less. It's 100 grand rather than 400 grand. Now, whether you've trained your kids in property or not, okay, you still want to be passing on less debt to people, no matter what. So absolutely, keep yourself up, keep yourself in debt, keep yourself mortgaged, never pay it off, never sell the property, and your kids will be thanking you for it. Because I know which one of these I would rather give to my kids. They're not even around yet. But I know that when I'm a father, I'm going to be going, right, 400k, 100k, no brainer. So I'm going to calm down a bit now. And I'm just going to quickly go through a demonstration of taking profits from property. Okay. Now, this is an example of where the market has gone up 20%. Like I said, it doesn't have to be per year, but the market's gone up 20%. And you've got a house value at the top here of £100,000. You've got that 75% mortgage, and you've got the 25% equity that you put in as a deposit. So you're a smarty, all right? You are not paying off this mortgage. You're refinancing. You are making sure that you raise your rents. We do holiday lets and service accommodation, and similarly with those, we make sure that the income is great before we buy the properties. And how do we do that? The 6 C's up here, they virtually guarantee you a property that is going to make excellent income. And we are talking 30, 40, maybe £50,000 a year from a single property in cash flow. All right, so that is before tax, but that is also before you refinance. That's just cash flow. That's passive income. We're going back onto this though now, okay? Watch the other video for 6 C's of holiday letting, but let's just say, for example, that our house value goes up by 20%, okay? 120 grand it's worth now. You have raised your rents, you've kept your income high, so you go to the bank and you say, I want to remortgage, I want to refinance, and what are they going to do? They're going to say, okay, because you're good for it, all right? They're going to give you 90 grand, you're going to pay off that 75 grand, and you are going to have released that difference, that 15 grand, tax-free. You're not paying a penny on this, okay? You're not paying a penny on this. Your equity has gone up as well to 30 grand. Brilliant. Next, okay, compound effect, this is called. So the 20% that just come, this second 20%, that acts on that first 20%. So now it's going up 24 grand, not just 20, it's going up 24 grand, which means that the mortgage now goes up to 108 grand. You pay off that 90 grand mortgage with the 108. You keep the difference, 18 grand, tax free. Your equity has gone up 36,000, okay? And so the dance goes on. Now, when the video that I watched on this was made, it was described as inflation proof. And unfortunately, with the year that we've just had, it's 2022 now, with the year that we've just had, inflation has been particularly high. We've also got cost of living crisis going on. Now, these are unfortunately taking a lot of money out of the pockets of people that are quite close to the line already. And that high inflation is too much for this to beat. That inflation has just been for this year. Usually, okay, after a period of inflation, you do get a price crash as well. The reason for that is that people just simply aren't buying as many luxuries anymore, so they have to bring the price of those things down to shift them or just make a meager profit. So these are usually inflation proof, is what I'm trying to get across. Usually these are inflation proof, and it's just unfortunate that I'm filming this at a time, but it's not. However, greener pastures are on the way, and that's what I fully believe. Now, with all that aside, whether you're in 100% inflation, 0% inflation, 20% inflation, you still want to be taking money out of your properties and keeping yourself in debt. Now let's move on to a much larger portfolio, okay? And it's gone up 5%. Now, again, you want to make sure that you're doing 2-year fixed mortgages, because that means that when that term ends, you can go and refinance. Now, if this isn't something that you've done already and you're watching this video and you're thinking, oh, I'm on a 5% variable, or I'm on a 5-year variable, or I'm on a 5-year fix or something like that, don't worry. Getting financially free is all about learning new things and being able to reprogram that old programming. Personally, we are on a 5% fixed, because when we bought this property, it was before we really knew much about this sort of thing. We didn't really know much about refinancing. So don't worry. Just make sure that next time you buy an investment property, you go in there and you do it properly with an interest-only mortgage, and you're not paying down the mortgage even. You go for that 2% fixed rate. Okay. So let's just focus on this again. 5%, the market goes up by 5%. You've got a property portfolio here worth 1.4 million, which means that the mortgage is just a hair over $1 million. Okay? Your equity is 350k. You have this portfolio. It goes up by a mere 5%. Keep in mind that annually it's meant to be 7.9% here in the UK. It goes up just by 5. You go in and you release 52,500 pounds tax free. The job that you would have to work to get that money after tax is probably going to be paying you about 70 to 80 grand before. Okay, you go and take that money out and it is tax free. Your equity has gone up. You're obeying all the rules, so now your kids aren't going to be paying ridiculous amounts of tax on a 1.4 million pound portfolio, and you are getting 50 grand every so often, or every time you refinance, of tax-free money. It goes up 5% again. Again, the amount of money that you take out has increased even more, and it's still tax-free. You just get tax-free cash after tax-free cash lump sum. This is excellent. You are never going to be paying tax on this. Why? Because it's money that you're borrowing. Okay, this is money that you're borrowing. So, with that explained, I hope that I've convinced you that you are never, ever, 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 ever wanting to sell. You never want to be out of debt. Okay, you always want to be in good debt, and you always want to have someone else paying it off and then some and making you money. And I hope I've also convinced you to consider that on your next property, you have a look at a 2-year fixed mortgage rather than a 5-year. So thank you very much for watching. This has been a video where we've been spending a bit of time in the time-tested tax toolkit on the left there, and I wish you all the best. Take care.